community.
Okay.
It's the Really Charlie Podcast. Yeah, it's the Really Charlie Podcast. Yo, it's the Really Charlie Podcast. Bump into your broadcast, grab a chair, fill your glass. Yeah, it's the Really Charlie Podcast. Yo, it's the Really Charlie Podcast. Yeah, it's the Really Charlie Podcast. Bump into your broadcast, grab a chair, fill your glass.
Hey, welcome to the Really Charlie Podcast. I'm Charlie Perry, along with Marvin Speller, Coach M100. How you doing, man?
What's up, my brother? Miss talking to you, man, and it's always great to come back and chit-chat and break bread and build upon some things, my man.
True. It's been a long time coming. We kind of went on the different paths for a little while, you know.
And little summer stuff, you know.
Yeah, and plus I understand some. I know of some hard work that you were doing on your end, and that takes up a lot of time. So, you know, especially if I was trying to get you on at this time, you know, Pacific time, you know. That's not even the end of your day. You got a lot of things going on,
yeah,
you know?
Yeah, my day doesn't really truly end till like 9, 10 o'clock at night. So, but it's all good, you know, no complaints.
True.
I appreciate all the things I do, and especially when it comes to trying to support these folks out here, you know?
Yeah, we have, it's interesting summer, you know, went by kind of quick.
Oh my God. This is got to be the fastest summer that I've ever had my whole life, man.
So true. So so what's up, Joey? How you doing? Thanks for joining us. I appreciate you. The summer just went by so quick. And the reason why I'm saying so quick is because I remember things I was doing like on Memorial Day, you know, the beginning of the summer, the end of the school year, and now here it is, you know, back to school, and you know, little ones in the family are getting ready to go back to school, whether it was today or, you know, maybe Thursday or Friday of this week. It's crazy.
Yeah, no, it's kind of one of those things, right? And I was talking to my wife about this the other day about time, and I like perception of time, what happens, and this thing, how it's different based on your age, right? Time was really, really expansive when you were younger, right? And as you get older, especially you get past 50, time it just feels like it just runs. But I think it has a lot to do with just being appreciate the days, right? Because when you're younger, you're like, oh man, I can't wait to this, and I can't. And when you're older, it's like everything is like now. It's not tomorrow, it's now, because you know what the future holds, right?
Yes. It's man, I think you know, yesterday was a good experience for me because I seen a lot of friends that I haven't seen all summer. So we got to chit chat a little bit, you know, talk about things, family, friends. You know, we actually lost a good friend from the neighborhood, but we try to keep the spirits going. You know?
Yeah, sorry about that, brother.
Yeah, we kind of, you know, the weirdest thing is as we were having conversation, you know, friends of mine out there, we could picture that friend right here by the side of us,
right,
kind of doing a thing, you know, whether it's drinking some beer, eating some food,
right,
you know, just talking about different things. And we got a clear vision that he was still there with us, you know, and but
I understand.
Yep. So tomorrow isn't promised, you know.
It never is.
The you know, offline we talked about many things. Talked about some of the crimes that are going on throughout the country, situations that are very, very unnecessary. And it seems like there's so many folks, in different communities that just want to do things that are unnecessary, like acts of violence, and
Right.
they use so much energy in doing those things. And could you imagine if they use that energy in something constructive,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, so true. You think about society, we're easily swayed in one direction or another. Um, I think about this nation, and I think about all that we've gone through, especially during COVID, right? The lockdowns and mask wearing all the time, and you're starting to see some of the fallout from this. Um, People like you and I, we've seen a lot of fallout along the way.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen more people on the streets, more people going through violence, all types of violence, and it's this whole thing where my wife and I, we used to talk about this all the time. We used to go in the stores, people wearing masks, they'll run by you. Back in the day, somebody would, hey, excuse me. Now you got a mask on, you don't really have to do these things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so what happens when you take off the mask is that you still have these habits, right?
Yes.
And, we could sit here and talk about this all day, but I think about this whole mental health thing. Cannot put it in a box. You cannot define it. We are witnessing a time in history where mental health in this country has never been this bad. And it's not just Marvin talking. You can research it yourself. I've seen a lot. Guess what? We've all have gone through it.
Mm-hmm.
We've all gone through certain things. It's like, you think about the day where you wake up and you're like, what, I'm going to do my whole house, top to bottom and all that. And then something hits you. Just like, what? I don't feel like doing a damn thing, right? Right? You could be going through a low-level depression. And guess what? It's just there, right? So we have this narrow view of what mental health is, right? We have this view of like, you've got the big ones, right? But what about the low-level stuff that people are going through? Anxiety, some forms of depression, not just feeling your best. Just, a little bit more agitated, right? Because I see the road rage out here all the time, right? So We're seeing all this, Charlie, right? But no one's really realizing it, and it's something that we all have to do collectively. And I think collectively, what can we do to kind of love each other more? I said this, Charlie, you and I have said this many times we got here. Nobody's going to come and save us. No one's going to do something that we shouldn't be doing for ourselves, right?
True.
And we need to go back to kind of like maybe some old-fashioned ways of doing things. Please and thank yous, right? I remember seeing this like 10 years ago, right? Working in corporate America, you say something to somebody. First thing they say is, huh? What'd you say?
Mm-hmm.
And back in the day it was like, excuse me, I beg your pardon.
Yes.
I'm sorry, what you say? Right? It's that little trickle effect, right? There's a trickle down effect when you think about what's happening to society. And I am a firm believer that none of this stuff is by accident, Charlie. None of it. When you talk about people being divided, right? And I think about you and I were talking about this offline. When I'm out here working in the community, man, I'm not thinking about somebody, this white guy, this Hispanic guy, black guy. I'm thinking about, hey, somebody else needs some help. When some of this construct that we focus on is in the way of us looking at us as human to human. And have to do a better job. Because this is what this whole thing's about. No one's going to make we're thinking Congress is going to get off their ass. I don't care what side of the aisle you on, left or right. They're thinking somebody going to sit there and they're going to be in a room one day after eating that pizza and consuming the best liquors on the planet, that someone's going to come up with a solution to all this.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? It's that whole thing that somebody else is going to just do for you. Somebody else is just going to do it. It's not going to happen, man. It takes something where someone to just show a level of kindness to one another.
Yeah, we forget. Society has gotten to a point where they're like, we don't sit back and relate. Don't sit back and relax and wait for politicians, wait for the government to save your life, like you're talking about. What I always try to tell people is just pay attention, but that doesn't, don't be lazy. Still do what you're gonna do. Just pay attention what you have to, whatever they're saying to you. Like you said, left, right, in the middle, center. Just pay attention.
Right.
Don't get. Just pay attention to it. They're gonna throw whatever they have to out there. Pay attention to it. Do some research. What you like to always say. This is Marvin speaking. But I want you to look it up. And that's what we got to do with a lot of things. And whether it's governmental, whether it's physical, whether it's mentally, just do our research a little bit. And if you need help doing it, reach out to some good people that will steer you in the right direction. No, we gotta keep moving, man. Keep doing. I'm finally. I gotta pushed by a friend of mine to start my business. And I'm gonna do that. But it took him, and never mind what you have been doing over the years to me and encouraging me to do things. But we just gotta. The only way we get things a little bit better is be cautious of what you're doing, what you're saying. My Uncle Arnold used to always, he always knew when someone wasn't paying attention to him, or wasn't listening to the conversation. And he would say, "Hey, how you doing?" They would say, "Fine, how you doing?" And he would say, "Oh, I'm dying of cancer." And they say, "Oh, that's good. That's good." And not even paying attention to the conversation, But, let me just add this little comment here. Here's a comment: research by Facebook user. And also it says, "Good evening, gentlemen. Hope all is well. Your thoughts on the sheriff's election coming up, and any preference on candidates?"
Well, you guys have a sheriff?
Yeah, we get the primaries are coming up next week. So, my choice, believe it or not, is we have an incumbent that's been there a while, and but I like a newcomer, Paul Heroux. He's mayor of the city of Attleboro. He's also got some law experience behind him as an administrator. So he's been doing a lot of good things, and I think that that's going to be the guy that's going to get my vote. I'm very impressed with him. Spoke with him, had some conversations with him. So that's my choice. And,
it's interesting. We have some sheriff races out here in November, and my wife and I, we were talking about it. The one sheriff that's here, we'd rather have him because he's all about maintaining your rights. See, a sheriff is just as powerful as any elected official.
Mm-hmm.
If there was a let's say federal agent that came in town, they have to get permission to go into a certain area where a sheriff has jurisdiction.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to research, you were a police officer a long time. It's kind of interesting, right? Yep. And the marshal's above them, right? Marshal's got like crazy jurisdiction, right?
Yeah.
But a sheriff's so important. The sheriff we had here in LA was so important because they were very draconian on all these mask and vaccine mandates here in LA. And the sheriff told the mayor and the governor he's not going to enforce them. And guess what they did to him?
Probably try to retaliate as much as they could, right?
It's nothing you can do.
Yeah.
They have ultimate power in a jurisdiction. Once you elect them in, they are extremely powerful. So that's why we want to keep this same sheriff because, man, I don't know how it is in the rest of the country, but in California, they tried to take away so many different rights, and there was so much revolt. And I'm always of the mindset if you start to take some powers from people, you're going to take them all at some point, right? Mm-hmm. And this is what goes back to the narrative we were talking, Charlie, is like, man, it's incumbent on all of us to do certain things, not people who are elected officials because they can just do things on a whim.
So true. And I always go back to it. I always say to folks every year, because every year the elections in this area change. They go from state to municipal stages. They alternate every year. Right. So every year you're going to vote for something. You're going to vote for something, and so you have to pay attention and be on your P's and Q's. But the one thing that's so important is not registering to vote, but to cast your vote. You gotta. Some people just registered, but it's just a title. I'm a registered voter, and they never go out to vote. But it's very, very important.
I wonder about this thing of voting, though, because I always say to myself, I think voting's important, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I always thought with voting, it was about a quid pro quo. Mm-hmm. Something for something, right?
Yep.
You know what I would love before anybody that runs for office? Go out and hand out everything you're going to do, right? Or better yet, don't even vote for the person. Just vote for a certain agenda. Mm-hmm. Imagine that, right? Yep. You had faceless candidates, right? And then you had agendas up, right? Their agenda. And their agenda, that's what you're voting for, right? Mm-hmm. We can get stuff done instead of complaining about, well, so-and-so's in office and they're doing a crappy job. Well, a bunch of us voted for this person, right?
True. It's so important. There's as much as I think that I like sometimes, and while I'm talking to myself, I may say, well, if this doesn't happen, I don't think I'm gonna vote anymore. It's a waste of time. Just not gonna do it. It drives me crazy, and I get so stuck on it that I actually almost convince myself not to vote. Mm-hmm. But then I remember some things that were on the ballot that needed to be, voted upon, and it was so narrow, it's almost like 51 to 48%, and it got approved. And I'm thinking, wow, you know what? I did encourage people to vote, and I knew some of my friends that were going to vote a certain way. Maybe if I didn't cast that vote, or I didn't, give my input to some of my friends, maybe they might have swayed the other way. So, but anyways.
You should go for mayor again.
I've been asked it yesterday. I was asked to run again, and it's kind of difficult for me right now, only because of some of the things that I'm trying to accomplish.
Right.
And it's not it's on a personal level what I want to accomplish, and I think that if I'm in the area in any kind of arena with a title, My family knows this very well, is that if I obtain that title, I'm going to go 100%, 110%, and I'm going to go all out. And what's usually going to happen is I'm going to put a lot of things that I want to accomplish on the back burner because of my title. And I did that in law enforcement.
I understand that. Okay.
And so that's my concern right now. But never say never, because someone could get me agitated, aggravated, or just not convincing that they can do the job right. I'm just going to put my name in a hat, and then I'm going to run. So never know.
Before we get back to our conversation, someone else put a quote up here.
All right. Let's see. Was it this one?
Yeah.
All right. How do we get more minorities to get out and actually vote? We need a local database of key candidates that we should get behind, simply those key points that make them better than the existing official, which I think the problem is when it comes to voting, is convincing someone that their vote counts.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing that I've seen, because a lot of times, someone I've known a few years, they just voted the last election, and that was the first time they ever voted. And the problem was that they were never convinced that voting isn't very, very important until this last election. So I just, and as far as databases, there's a lot of the voting information is public information. So a lot of that stuff you can get just by putting in a simple request, gathering that information, and maybe just building a database on your own, along with a bunch of things, whether it's data from the city or towns, or data from the state, or data even from federal level. And you gather all that together and then kind of lump it in and basically build your own database where you can pass on that information. But a lot of anything dealing with voting and politics is under the Freedom of Information Act, and most of that material and information you can get. And town meetings too, town and city meetings.
Right.
You need to do those, and that can get the information out of what particular candidate that you want in office, or has, or you support their agenda, as you mentioned earlier.
So it's about the agenda, man. We got. Yeah. We've seen this time and time again. This is how people get caught up, right? Because it's that likability factor, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what people vote on. I'm like, are you serious?
Yeah.
And that's an easy play, because you be like, okay, all I got to do is go out here and kiss babies and talk the smack, and I'm gonna get in, because that's what a lot of people use nationwide. It's that likability factor. People don't even focus on, well, they can tell you whatever, and I think that we have to be very careful when it comes time to that. Sometimes you got to ask the tough questions, like, you won't get my vote not unless you're willing to do certain things. And if more people moved in that direction, you can probably get more done. Because you hear it all the time, right? I shouldn't have voted for that person. Well, did you find out what they stood for? And what are some of the things you did to hold them accountable? So I think it boils down to that personal responsibility. Can't vote and then do like this, right? And think everything's just going to fall into place. Another thing I want to say, I think one of the things that can help change some things is that whatever we deem as minorities, right? If you were to kind of blow it up a little bit, what minorities are, a lot of people who are so-called classified as minorities vote the same way. So what's the difference, right? I mean, you're going to vote the same way no matter what. So you start at the top, right?
Mm-hmm. Right?
Democrat, Republican, right? Maybe some independent over here, right? Independent, Green Party, all that other stuff, right? And then you can't keep doing the same thing over and over and over. I think about Baltimore, city I'm coming from, that was born in, right? Man, they voted same party for probably as long as I've been alive. And you start to look up, Baltimore lost 300-400 people a year, right? The conditions in the city haven't really changed. Not unless some businessman or businesswoman comes in and changes it up, one person, right? But the government doesn't change anything, but it's always voted one party. Change it up a little bit, right? And watch and see what happens, right? Because you can do it for one election, right? Say all the minorities weren't voting this one party and went to another party. Watch how quick things will change. Well, I can't lose no votes now, right? That's what they're going to say, and then decide to go do something. Happens all the time, man.
Yeah, sometimes change is good. Change is good, and I've seen. I'll leave it. This will probably be the last thing on this, so we can talk about what we really wanted to, or not really what we scheduled to talk about. But I had found out that there's some people put in place in the city council, and things haven't changed. It's no different than what it was, And I'm like, it's time for y'all to step up, Said all the right things trying to get elected once, or maybe for the second or third time. Guess what? They're still doing the same thing, But I always said that city council is the weakest. It's the weakest strength, as far as getting things done. I think the power isn't there within our city council.
And it should be. Every city across America. Most important elections, probably the city council. Yeah. And you go up from there.
And it's so weak. It's only weak is because of the power they give them. They need to allow more done within city council, where they, their words are just, they just listen to in this air, out the other, and that's it, and they said their piece, but there's really not much they can do, and that's my opinion, because if they could do something, then things would have changed a long, long time ago.
Well, that's kind of what we're talking about, Charlie.
Yeah.
And it keeps going back to the same thing, man. No one's going to come save us, man. And these elected officials are not going to save us, man. It's going to be a collective effort, right? And so when you have a collective effort, and even not even a full collective effort, because you're never going to have a true collective effort, right? But if you get like 10, 15% of a group to like come together and you're doing something, right, that strength in numbers there, right? Sure. We were talking about, when you think about the things that are happening in these cities, right? Crime is rampant. I mean, like really rampant, man. You took a city like Baltimore, 300-400 murders a year. I mean, consistently. There's like no jump up to 300-400 and then you slide down to 100. It's nothing like that. Mm-hmm. And so that's just a symptom, right? When you think about that symptom, right? It's a symptom of what? The symptom of all the things that's happening in the world, but we're mainly talking about the mental health, right? And again, our politicians, what have they really solved, right? What have they solved with mental health, man? Because I'm in a big city. I'm in here in Los Angeles, right? Mm-hmm. And I see it, man. And honestly, I got to be honest, Charlie. Some days I don't even like going into LA. Because just about everywhere you go, you're going to find somebody that's really, really struggling with mental health. Not the stuff that majority of us go through, because we all go through something. Whether it's a level of depression, anxiety, just not feeling your best, something, right? Sure. You're not going to go through this unscathed, right? Just by being a gracious observer of how life is, right? And you're seeing this all the time, right? You say, okay, boom, we got to continue to do this, right? We got to continue to work to solve this, because nobody's going to come and save us, right? And that's why you and I were like talking about, okay, what are some of the things we can do? Because the bottom line, it's going to take a whole hope of people. It's going to take like a groundswell to do this, right?
Yeah.
Me and my wife, we're gonna do something for like September and October. Just kind of like pay it forward. Pay it forward however you do it. Whether it's messaging, somebody behind you is going to buy you a Starbucks. Oh, you guys are really into Dunkin' Donuts, right?
Mm-hmm.
So all those things, right? The things you can do, right? Because I don't like to sit around and talk about the problems. They're easy. It's easy, right? I want to talk about what we can do, right? What can you do when you find that somebody's struggling? What are some things you can do to help them, right? So we're gonna do that. We're gonna ask people to send us videos. Send us videos. What are you doing to try to help? What can you do? And we're gonna have this thing where it's kind of a groundswell, right?
Mm-hmm.
Pay it forward. Do something. Let's try to uplift people, right? Because you think about if you could do it short term, you could do it long term, right? And we're really hoping that this thing can go viral.
Good.
So it's kind of, we're always in the lab, man. We're in the lab thinking about what can we do to impact others and really make a big difference, right? Because this is what this is about, Charlie. And I hate to say it because we can't talk about, well, what are we going to do? Who's going to come save us 2-3 years from now? Because it's too late by then.
Yeah.
This thing is moving fast, man.
Thing is when you kind of look at your household, you guys helped each other out. There was some rhyme or reason why you both helped out each other.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it was you today, your wife tomorrow, but the bottom line is you helped out each other and you stood consistent. And that's just the type of people you are.
I appreciate that.
And when you start something like you're talking about, you want the ground to swell, and it's easy. It's easy to do. Help is easy, in my opinion. Help is very, very easy. And now some people help to a grand stage, where they're helping an abundance of people all at once. Some people may just be able to do it one-on-one.
Right.
But that's the best thing about it is that, we can all help is defined as help. It's no, you help more. You're the greatest helper of all time. No, we're just all trying to do something where we can help the next person, where we can help the person at our side, where we can help a complete stranger.
Right.
Just because they asked for it,
Yeah, that's what it's about. Mm-hmm. Charlie, I mean, this is the one thing you and I were talking about before, man. Like, so during this pandemic, whether it was the mask or whatever, man, we see it, right? There's some people that really, really want to give back, right? And so you've got that wave of people that really want to do more. But you also got a wave of people that got really, really comfortable with just sitting around and be like, you know what? I got to go into this me mode. It's all about me. And honestly, I think it's like I want to put my nails on the chalkboard. Next time I hear somebody talk about, well, I got to have me time and all these other quotes that people use. I got to make sure my boundaries are on this place. And some of this stuff has really got overused. We are communal beings, man.
Mm-hmm.
We are meant to flourish together. We are meant to get together and multiply. You know what I'm saying? We are communal, but this whole paradigm of just me and it doesn't work, man. And you wonder why you can be somewhere and somebody's struggling and somebody gonna keep walking by, man. And I say to myself, it's like that type of thing you've got to go back and do the other stuff to offset that, because that side of the coin is growing too.
Yes, so true.
I mean, you think about it. So let's talk about this for a second, right? Charlie, you and I talked about, and let's just say a fictional community, right? Let's just say the Wakanda community, right?
Yep.
There are people that are out there, the Wakanda community. They seem to have it all together, but behind the curtain, it's a hot mess, right? And so in this community, they're going to pretend like everything's already good to go, but no one really wants to either point things out or come forward and talk about, well, what are the solutions, and do that and come together, right? Or even just a small percentage of that, right? Instead of watching somebody who's in that Wakanda community, and they also got a Really Charlie podcast, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they got a Really Charlie podcast, right? And they're looking for people to come on, join, and support and all that. And they can't get it from their own community. What happens then, Charlie?
Well, it will cause them to kind of sit back, give up.
Sit back and give up. Sit back and give. And apathy starts to grow, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So in order to get back into that, you got to have this other side to offset that. You understand what I'm saying? Because the other side is really insignificant, right? That really is a function of being caught up in all the stuff that's happening in the world, right? You have to forgive them for that, right? Because it's easy. It's easy to be caught up in all this meanness thing on me. And so you got to continue to do these things and fight this battle, because there's people that need support and help, right?
Exactly.
Hey, honey, I see you just came on.
It's it. It says, hi, family, just got a deposition.
Yeah.
Yeah. Working hard, as always, right?
Yes. Hardest working person, man. So, Charlie, that's why we're going to do that, man, because it's time to be activated to continue to do that. We don't really have a choice right now. We really don't, man. And we it's kind of easy for people like you and I to go run and hide. Just do what we got to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
We just choose not to, right?
Exactly. It's in the mind. It's my mindset. I don't think I could ever just kind of sit back and relax. And if I am kind of hesitant about something, it's only because I haven't really looked into it,
Right.
And I'm not ready, or I need to look into it a little bit further, and I'm going to actually step up to the plate and help out some others with their goals and what they're trying to do for this city. So I'm going to kind of step up and help out. But great. I'm also going to give up. I'm also going to, if I have to give some opposition, I'm going to do that, also. And I'm going to say, look, this is the reason why, but I'm definitely going to be there to support, as I always do. But I definitely have to also give my opinion,
Well, you're supposed to. You know what, Charlie? You've earned that right. You've earned that right as much as you've done for people, and you've got the wisdom and experience, man. So you've earned that. You've earned that place. You've earned that place of putting your voice out there. I'm hoping people will respect that, because it's definitely owed to you, right? I mean, all that you've done and what you continue to do, and you're at it all the time, man. So, I mean, look at this platform, for example, right? Platform you provided a voice to many, a voice to people that didn't have opportunities. So, I think about definitely earned, and I would challenge you to continue to be vocal. Yeah. Just like that Wakanda community I was just talking to you about, that fictional community. You should have a very, very, very strong voice in that. And I know you do, but There's this thing that I think about when I was in corporate America. There was this one competency that always gets me going, right? And every time I used to think about it, well, how am I living up to this? It's called leadership courage. That means doesn't hold back what needs to be said,
True.
right? Missing that, especially amongst men in all these communities, right? And then you talk about this fictional community we're talking about, right? And so it's very, very important. Very, very, very important. So, and I think you've earned that. And hey, man, I'm not trying to put any extra pressure on you, brother, but it's kind of one of these things where, and I love the trajectory and the pace that my wife and I are on because, man, we don't hold back what needs to be said because the time is running out, and so sometimes you can get a message out many different ways to people, and sometimes it's just straight and direct. And
like
you may not be able to handle it, but that's okay.
Yeah, and like in your case, I know you two as you're gonna plan certain things, you're gonna talk about it and discuss it. So when you go ahead and kind of initiate or start to plan, everything's in motion, and all of a sudden now Mr. and Mrs. don't say what they agreed to say, just a short time ago before going out to the event or whatever. Now Marvin and Kristen just kind of clammed up and didn't say anything, which always would no doubt, which leads to you guys going home and then talking about it and then having a discussion that you just talked about just 6 hours ago.
Right.
But you never had that conversation with the people that you should have, or
right.
just to hear what they have to say, and so I like what you said about, that leadership courage. You gotta have it. You gotta say it. And you know what? The one thing about saying things that you feel is that you get a response in most cases. So now, all right, and it may be a response that you may have never heard, a response that you might have heard of, and that you have an answer to, and you can sway that person. Well, this is why I think it's this. And now all of a sudden you change their mind, and you're like, boom, all right, now you got some more, you have an additional support
by
just having a conversation. But
why are we afraid to say something? And here's the thing, man. Listen, I've ran preschools for 8-9 years, right?
Yep.
And one of the things we used to tell people, the children, y'all get together and try to work this out, or you sit there and mediate it, right? And I'm saying to myself, why did we stop doing that? Why do we go back to this whole crap of like passive aggressive behavior, or I don't know what happened, man, because that was a whole thing, right? We went into this thing where it's like you want to kind of hold back because you don't want to hurt people's feelings, because we've really become a really soft culture and all this other things, right? But I'm always in the mindset, lead, follow, or just get the hell out the way, right? One, fall into a certain category, right? Because time is not necessarily on our side, Charlie. And I think about that because, you have to be, and we can have conversations, right? It doesn't have to be violent or vicious or nasty. Just, hey, let's just have conversation. That's what we used to do, right? Have conversations, right? Now, if I got something with Charlie and I want to have a conversation with him, guess what I'm gonna do?
That's it. And
that takes away from a lot of things, right?
And it's a miss. The one thing about the cell phone, it could be, it always leads to a text, which leads to a misinterpretation.
Can be.
And we have to get away from that. I like this, what Christian said about courageous conversations. And it's you know, and the I know when we're on the phone, we can talk, and as long as I have your voice, but the text messaging is something that just it's good. It's good in a way, but I like that conversation, you know, one on one. You know, let's talk about it. Let me read Marvin's expressions. Let me, you know, uh, let me have that conversation. You know, let me see a tear growing in his eye because, all right, we're talking about something. Like, oh, wait a minute. I need to talk to my family right now. What's going on, man? A little on the emotional state. What's happening? What's going on with you? You know, and then let's try to fix this. You know,
Right.
maybe it is some mental health with you. You know, and that's why I like that one-on-one conversation. You know.
Yeah, talking to people and breaking bread and it's everything, and we think that's going to continue to um, make a difference. That's why we're going to do this for September and October, right? Just the we haven't formulated the phrase with it, right? But it's gonna be something around kindness, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we can get some groundswell going and some momentum with this, right? And so it'll continue to make a difference or spark conversations with people, right? It could be something simple as like, okay, today text less, call more.
Mm-hmm.
Boom, there you go, right?
Yep.
Makes a big difference, right? Because someone can hear your voice and I think about. I wish I could. I wish I could. I still hear it in my head, my grandmother's voice. There wasn't one time I've ever that I talked to her. There was never one time where she didn't want to hear from me, and that made such a big difference,
That's it.
And I remember that, right? And so now you can't pick that up from either a letter, email, or text, but if someone's telling, "Hey, I missed you," and it's good to hear from you. And
Mm-hmm.
and when I was younger, this is why I've always loved the elderly population so much, because this is what they do, and that joy that they bring to you, right, is just, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my god. And that just fills you up, right? Your bucket's so full that day, it's overflowing with that love and joy that they gave you, right? And you're like, man, right? How often do we get that now, Charlie? Because
Yeah,
what happened to them during COVID. They got stuck in the nursing homes, right? And
mm-hmm.
almost forgot about, right? So let's just
Yeah.
call it for what it is.
Believe it or not, some people went into the nursing home, never came. Well, they came out, but
A lot of them
came.
never came out
Yeah.
purposely,
Yeah.
right? That could be a whole nother podcast one day.
True.
But yeah, so that's kind of what we're looking at. Something we can kind of continue to turn the tide. I wonder if I have a few minutes. I want to talk about. So I think we got like 12 minutes left.
Yeah.
So we're gonna do that. October's Domestic Violence Month, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we've been doing a lot with that. My wife and I, especially my wife, she's done a fantastic job supporting these women and taking them to the finish line, right? She's been a big advocate and doing that. And so that's something we've always done, Charlie. I told you about, we used to do this thing. We're going to bring it back called Glam Up. I think I shared with you before. Bring these women together, make them feel good by making them feel beautiful, all this makeup, words of encouragement, great food. And that's something that the tea leaves fall together. That's something we could take nationally, but we're still pushing this resource center in order to provide the necessary resources. But I have to give a lot of kudos to my wife, because she's been really taking these women from here to there. As you know, happens to be the name of our nonprofit, From Here to There. So I'm super excited to have a partner like my wife. She's always given that above and beyond, not just women, men, children as well. We're doing a lot with that, and I can't wait till these programs continue to come out. So that's kind of everything that's happened in the community, what we're doing, that we feel is going to be big. We're still focused on the mental health aspect. We feel as though sometimes this part of mental health is just getting people just to feel better, even if it's just for a minute, because sometimes each day, don't take a day at a time, take a minute at a time. If you take a minute at a time, that those are building blocks, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're going to Nashville in October.
Okay.
You know the song that you're on, Charlie.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna lift you up, right?
Very, very good song.
Got a nominee for that.
It was like it was a great producer in the background doing his thing, doing some wonderful things in the background. He kind of nice guy. He's actually I just wow,
Boom.
Look at this. Oh my God.
Boom. Look at those beautiful people there, right?
That's right, man. Look at that. Let me hide this comment here. All right, look at that.
Yeah, I mean it means so much. I mean, honestly, think about my wife and I writing this. We're always trying to do things to make a difference in this world, Charlie, and we don't do that for awards. We don't do that for kudos. We really do it because we feel it's our obligation, right? We feel like we've been tapped on our shoulders to really get out here and make a difference in this world, right? And I said no one's going to come save us, but collectively, there's a lot of good we can do, and we feel like this song is the epitome of that. And then the opportunity to win a Josie Award, my goodness. And my lovely, beautiful wife, she's going to have the opportunity to perform at the Grand Ole Opry. I mean, my goodness, right?
It's priceless. That's
beyond
priceless experience. Yeah.
Yeah.
And and I would be I think highly of your wife. I'm so happy that you both said I do.
I appreciate that, brother.
Because that's a great combination of two fabulous people. Round pegs in a round hole. It means so much, and I think you guys do that for each other.
And we do.
Yeah, I gotta give her 5 stars. On a lot of things that she's done. And it makes it that much more special when you see both names on that song, and it's something that your family, your friends can look at and say, look at my family, look at my cousins, look what they did, and all in all, you all become an inspiration for a lot of people just because of that. Hey, I need to do this. I need to produce something. I need to write something. I need to, what's the nomination process? How do we go about it? I mean, Christian has taught me so much about the process that I never knew. I'm a proud family member, man. I'm very, very proud of both of you.
Yeah, it's something about those Perrys, right?
Yeah. And there's a whole lot to say about those spellers. That name is. I'm glad you're the first speller that I met in my life.
I get that a lot, but I appreciate that, brother.
And you know what? And it sets the gauge. So anyone with that last name, I got a standard, and you got to live up to Marvin. You got to live up to it. There's a certain gauge and a standard. So they better come correct when they're coming to me with that last name.
Thank you, and I appreciate that. Charlie, I got to tell you, a lot comes from these women I grew up around.
Yeah.
My mother was amazing and still is. And every time I get a chance, we going out to Vegas to see her, right? Mm-hmm. And so I remember I had this aunt. And this aunt used to be like, I remember I was a little boy, Aunt Stella. I'd be over my grandmother's house. She's like, come here. And she used to sneak me some brown sugar, right?
Mm-hmm.
And just about the love I got from these women growing up had propelled me. It was like, you know what? I'm going to do whatever it takes to help women get back to their rightful place on this planet, right?
Mm-hmm.
And just remind them really in a lot of ways of their greatness, because I think it's they try to find it, which is they're doing a great job with that. But we used to be the ones that carry the torch for them to remind them of that, right? But
Yeah.
we can continue to do better with that. And my grandmother, boy, my great grandmother. I think about my godmother. I could just go on and on. The great women I met, and Kristen put up there Melinda. Melinda was
Mm-hmm.
just, just and I met so many, and I find this obligation, this shoulder tap. You can do better, and you will do better. And I like that level of accountability for myself, because it forces me to try to do better. And that may not be everybody's journey. I would never sit here and say, well, everybody's got to, you got to help this person. No, it's not for everybody. It's
True.
not. And I don't think people should be forced in there. It would be nice if people realize what's happening and to know, but some people just don't have it in them.
Yeah.
And that's okay too.
I wrote a poem years ago, and it's called "Man, That Woman," and it just basically describes of being raised and getting guidance through some strong women, and that was the title, "Man, That Woman." And so I leave it at the end of the poem, and it would be, "Man, that woman," and then you kind of, "Man, that woman." And it's so true that they actually just they put us on a path, and we're always there. And they've done some things or said some things in our lives that put us over the hump better than any man could have done.
Well,
so.
I think, as we talked about, there's a deficit in men performing certain roles, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I would also be remiss if I didn't mention today is the 56th anniversary of your cousin Charlie Perry and Babs Perry. 56 year anniversary. It's today.
Oh,
yeah.
right.
Kristen put
That
out a
is
wonderful
very nice.
post.
I didn't see it yet. See that? Caught me off guard. I didn't see it.
There you go. That's what I said. I'd be remiss if I didn't share that.
That's great. Yeah, and then
yeah.
she reminded us that it was Leo
Yep.
Perry and Babs. Yeah. So
Leo and Babs.
This is the greatest thing about that is that as you're telling me that, and I remember the stories that Christian was telling me, and just the fascinating stories.
Mm-hmm.
And then not too long ago, a few months ago, both Leo and Babs took in someone. They end up taking someone into their home and caring for them. So I finally know where your wife gets her stuff from. Her parents. Her parents are, open their arms and hands out to other people, and someone needed a place to go and stay, and
wow,
she did that. And
I heard they did it for quite a few people.
Yeah, and I mean, it's funny is that just mentioning your name, her name, and then I get this story. So you guys are 3,000 miles away.
There you go, man. And
so you're touching the borders of this wonderful country.
Yes, absolutely, my brother.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think I'm grateful. I'm grateful for it all, man. And it was interesting. I had a dream last night, and my dream was about doing something about gratitude. And I remember telling my wife last night, I was like, I'm in and out of these homes every day, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10,000 square feet. And, I'm saying to myself, wow, that's a lot of house here. And I remember telling my wife yesterday, I was like, I really, really like the place we're in. It's not nowhere near on that level.
Mm-hmm.
But, sometimes you just got to be happy and grateful where you're at, right? Because all you have is now. That's all you have is now. You don't have tomorrow. You got now.
Mm-hmm.
Now is right now. Most of the time, now is our best friend.
True.
And I'll leave it with that, my brother.
I love this. I love this podcast because we've been away from each other for a while. I'm glad that we connected this week and have this conversation. You know, and through our conversation, we had people listening, like your wife, that mentioned that we should do something about, having these conversations, these courageous conversations, and it would be very nice for the domestic violence community. So there's a plus in this podcast, and we definitely did it today. I'm glad that we connected.
Likewise, brother. We will.
I want to throw something in your mind. There's another conversation I want to have, and that's about climate control, and how I've just learned that many newspapers and companies are pushing that, climate control. And I want to know, as you mentioned earlier, what's that person's agenda? What's the media's agenda?
Agenda. You said it, Charlie. You hit it right on the head, brother.
Yeah. So
follow the agenda and follow the money. Everything that happens, and the answers will appear.
Yeah. So I'm gonna start looking into that. I also been getting I had a strong admiration for, not admiration, but I've been trying to research some of the POWs that were here within the country, within the United States, especially during World War II.
Right.
And I found out that there was some POWs here in Massachusetts.
Oh, wow.
And they were like pea farmers. They would have them on the farms and picking peas and everything. And it just goes. There's several states within the within the country where POWs, Nazi Germany POWs were here, and they were actually getting paid, and and some of them stayed within the country. Some were tried for different things later on, but some of them went from being Germans to now Americans, and now there's 2 or 3 generations that are here, placed within the country, and they're very productive people. But
look up this, and we could probably do a whole podcast on that. I told you, man, we can build on any subject, man.
True.
You ever heard of Operation Paperclip?
Yes, I did. I listened to that. Oh my God, that woman is unbelievable. She has done so many things, and the craziest thing is that why am I hearing it at the age of 55? Why am I? Why not? I should have known about that a long time ago. But I just. But
you gotta look up.
I would like to talk about that.
Yeah, anytime, man. We can, like I said, we can go in any direction with this, man. Any direction. And Operation Paperclip, Operation Lantern Spear. That's another good one to look up.
Yeah, I just watched the Great Escape, and that was interesting.
It's a good movie.
And the craziest thing is the guys that were able to escape. One of them said that it wasn't worth it. He lost so many people.
Yeah.
So many people due to them escaping and getting away. Some didn't get away, and it only led to hundreds of people being killed because of that escape.
Yep.
So, brother, you're definitely one of my favorites, and I'm not saying that because you're here on the podcast with me. I love talking to you. I love doing this thing. So let's do this one more time, several more times. And,
we will, man. I'm not going nowhere, brother. You got it.
I gotta wait for you. You know, your schedule is different than mine, and it's easier for me to adjust my schedule to according to yours. So just reach out to me, and we'll go from there.
All right, my brother. Much love, and we'll catch up.
All right. Give the wife a big hug for me. I appreciate you.
I will. All right, brother.
All right. God bless. All right. Well, this podcast was brought to you, and Marvin and I had always talked about doing something bi-weekly, and then things get caught up. We get caught up and do our summer schedules, as you mentioned. But I really, truly like having a conversation and just, it's sort of like just toss the ball up in the air. Let's talk about something, because I know it can always go in a direction that it needs to, based on the experience that I have, he has, and we can go in any kind of direction and really, really touch a lot of areas, and that's why I like having the coach on here, and he talks about different things that he's doing. But he's a great humanitarian, and those are the type of people I love being around. He just happens to be married to my cousin, and that makes it even more special. And I call him family, nothing but family. I don't call him a friend. I don't call him this or that. He's definitely family to me. So earlier in the podcast, there was some comments about early voting. The early voting is started. The early voting is here. So please if you want to vote for your candidate, the candidate and the agenda that you love and you respect, you can do it early now. You don't have to wait till the September election. Go ahead and do it now. All right. Love y'all. Take care. And I'm going to end this podcast with my favorite song by Lionel Peter Walker. Love you too, Christian. Take care. Keep up the good work. Angel on earth. And I appreciate you. Keep up your good work. All right. Let's see here.
It's the Really Charlie Podcast. Yeah, it's the Really Charlie Podcast. Yo, it's the Really Charlie Podcast. Bump into your broadcast, grab a chair, fill your glass. Yeah, it's the Really Charlie Podcast. Yo, it's the Really Charlie Podcast. Yeah, it's the Really Charlie Podcast. Bump into your broadcast, grab a chair, fill your glass.